This is Mentally Dope. Join us, Charmaine and Jasmine, two Black licensed therapists, as we build a bridge between mental health and Black culture. Come on, it's gonna be dope. Welcome back, guys. This is Stay Mentally Dope. Yes. I, of course, as usual, am Jasmine.
I'm Charmaine.
And as you saw, today we are talking about anxiety by
and
Meg.
Not the typical
right.
anxiety that we normally do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the song.
We're going to emphasize that.
Right. But the song Anxiety by Meg the Stallion. Okay.
The Stallion.
Right. The Great. And of course, we all saw like very publicly all the things that she went through and like how this album kind of went after that. And
it continues to go through, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And how she kind of channeled her emotions into this album in a way that she hasn't before.
Yeah. And shout out to Meg for being, personal bias of I think that she is very talented, and her being able to take something as deep or about like as deep as this and make it a bop. Like it's a nice little song, yes, but it's about a deep content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we're gonna dig into it.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna overanalyze it. We're gonna tell you what we think as two therapists.
Yeah.
Okay,
flip it down,
do all the stuff.
Do it. Yeah. Come back and do it again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you usually put in the category of anxiety?
So for me, like basic, I don't know if we talk about using the word excessive, but it is a level of worry. So having a worry or a fear about something or a potential outcome that causes you to feel symptomatic in some sort of way. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's something, maybe external, maybe internal, mm-hmm. for whoever it is. That kind of, like you said, makes you feel something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's really physical. Sometimes it's just thoughts, mm-hmm. right? And it like impacts the way that you move around the world.
Yeah. And I like the fact that even like me and you as licensed Black mental health professionals struggle with how you identify this in a boxed in concrete way. Because I think that also identifies one of the things about the song too, where she called the song Anxiety, but even she was kind of saying that she is perceived one way from people, that they call her rude, or that she was also saying I don't really know what I need. There's a lot of mixed things, especially for us. I think that when I mention the word anxiety, when I'm talking to people or I'm coming across someone who doesn't really know a lot about it or who knows certain things, people are quick to say, oh, I don't have anxiety. When first of all, let's be clear, all of us have anxiety. Sorry to tell you that we all do. All about different things, all about and they all may show up in different ways. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part for people who don't understand anxiety, and therefore sometimes they don't understand how it shows up. Like for example, in the song, she was like, "People call me rude." Right. That actually can be a symptom of your anxiety.
Yeah, but I think also like what Charmaine's trying to say is, us therapists, if you don't know this, we have a big, huge book called the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which talks about like all of the diagnoses that you could ever have in mental health ever. And in that book, it has everybody's like little cookie cutter definition of what this is, right? Mm-hmm. Do you meet criteria? Do you not meet criteria? And so for anxiety, it has its own criteria.
Yeah.
Right? And
also the hard part for me is that anxiety also branches off into a lot of other different
types of things. Like you can have anxiety, but there's different kinds of anxiety disorders. But what we're also saying is those definitions don't work for everybody, right? Just because they're written down in a certain way, just because we use that to diagnose people doesn't mean that everybody's going to show up that way.
100%.
So what we're also saying is like it looks different for brown folks. It looks different for Black women specifically who are anxious. They're not going to look like the typical. I don't know. What do you think an anxious person looks like? Like it might be somebody who's pacing around.
Yeah, I think
that's
the hard thing is that I think that when we think about typical anxiety, you think like if you type in anxiety on the little GIF thing or whatever to look. Nail biting,
right.
like the rocking in the window,
stress,
that's what it looks like. The sweating on the face, mm-hmm. like the vulnerability, like part of like I don't want to do this, like bubble boy, I'm not leaving the house because it looks like I'm scared to go outside, and that's not typical anxiety. Well, I mean, it is, but it looks
It's
different.
within that definition that the book tells us anxiety looks like.
Yes.
But just because you don't look like that or your anxiety doesn't look like that doesn't mean you don't struggle with anxiety.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I think that, so we talk about how it manifests and how it feels within us. Like I said, that rudeness or that irritability can definitely be a form of your anxiety. If I get anxious about being around something or about being around someone or about how someone is going to respond to something, if my defense mechanism is to be defensive or to be like snap back, I'm gonna clap at you before you clap at me, then yes, it looks rude. But the honest answer is that I'm anxious right now.
Right.
Like, I think that we see that a lot in relationships. Like, it doesn't, if you come to me and say, hey, like, let's talk, and I'm nervous about what you're asking me and it makes me anxious, sometimes my knee-jerk reaction may be to be like, well, I'm not doing that. Like,
exactly. Right. For some people, it can be rah-rah. Like, it can be elevated.
Yes.
And for some people, it can be the opposite, right? Like, I'm disengaging, I'm removing myself because
down.
I feel this happening in my body.
Yes.
So I would say for a lot of people, anxiety does look like it's physical in some way. Your heart might beat faster. Some people get stomach aches. Some people get headaches.
Yes.
And I would say that it usually connects to your fight or flight somehow, right? Like you get the urge to do something with that energy.
Yes.
For sure.
We see it a lot with, we're still going down symptoms like I can't sleep. Why? Because my mind just keeps racing into all of the things that I need to do tomorrow. It's not funny, but it's the hard part when we don't understand these things. And then, like, you ask someone, do you have anxiety? And they're like, no. But I do worry about, like, the whole week. So like, I can't sleep at night. Well, that's anxiety. That's...
Yeah. And I think, like, also in the Black community, we don't really have the words for it all the time. So what Black people might also say is, like, ooh, they got my pressure up.
Yes.
Right? Like, or...
my nerve pills.
My nerves are bad. I got to go home. My nerves are bad, right? Like, those are other ways to say, like, I am feeling anxious about something.
Yes.
For sure. And so we have our own ways to navigate it. And I feel like the same is true for Meg. Like, she is navigating it, and it's just because it doesn't fit into the textbook definition of what it is doesn't mean she's not experiencing something.
I think that she also highlights something too, is that I think that, and this may be going down a different rabbit hole, but sometimes how we dehumanize celebrities. That
for sure.
That if you're rich or if you're beautiful, that you ain't got no problems. And we're removing the fact that she is a human.
And even more, I don't have any problems. I can't complain about my problems. Nobody wants to hear about me complain about my problems because they perceive me to have everything.
Yeah.
Which also somehow means that fixes all my problems. But, like, we know that's not how that works.
No.
So
money does not erase the pain. Shout out to J. Cole.
Again. But as we circle back, I'm going to just say from my own history, I've been anxious since life. I don't... Yeah. Is that possible? Can I come out the womb with anxiety? I don't know how that works. Exactly. Let me get my little thing anyway. My inhaler. Let's go. But I mean, all the time, like, looking back now that I have a awareness and like words for what was happening with me, and I look back on how people interacted with me, people usually call me rude, standoffish, stuck up, all of these things because I was anxious in social situations. Yeah. And so I would present that way. I would, like, be in court. I wouldn't say anything. I'd be really quiet, all that stuff. And I think when anxiety shows up and, like, takes over for you, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
But it also looks different because looking at me, you wouldn't know that I was anxious.
Yeah.
Like, if you asked people I know,
I mean, like I know, like, you're meeting you, like, all you would see is, like, the RBF, like,
But that's also just the way my face is set up.
but like, not knowing when that's potential anxiousness.
Yeah.
Like, I know for people that I love who have some of those some of those social feelings, that I would consider it rude to have family over and you go to the back to your bedroom, like, come back.
Ooh, but listen, that is so a Black thing, though.
But it's the over anxious feeling. There's too many people. There's too much stuff going on. You're requiring me to talk to people. I don't know what to say, and I need to go to the bathroom or something, or, like, to the closet and just, like, calm down. But to everyone else, that can come across as, like, why are they being rude? Why are they being standoffish?
Right? Like, the family comes in. It's holiday season or whatever, and everybody wants to come in and talk and do all that stuff, but you're not good with that. And then, so now you also getting cussed out by your mama who be like, these people came to see you. They came to do all of this and you're not doing this. But
come out there and do a little dance, girl.
but not having the context that like, you're like something's going on within you. You're anxious and you literally it can't be that way for you because it's hard.
I think that it's the hard part because there are so many levels to that anxiety. So it could be that same thing, but it could be different for different people of like what causes them to be anxious, and which is the like the beauty of therapy sometimes, that actually digging into that, because most times we're not anxious just to be anxious. There's something else going on underneath that.
Exactly. And I think that's also why I have a hard time giving like a standard definition of anxiety.
Yes.
Because the behaviors can look any kind of way that they want to look.
And the behaviors can have roots that come from a lot of different places.
They can, but it's like digging under there and saying, what's the motivation behind this? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to avoid something?
Yes.
Because usually that's anxiety showing up. Are you trying, like, what is the goal with the behavior? Like, for example, they would tell us a story in like RAD training or something like that, which is a whole thing. I ain't gonna go into that, but like about a kid who would come and like slash his mom's tires every day. Like every time she would get a fix, he would slash her tires, and they were like, he's so bad. He needs to be this place, and like he's doing all this stuff. But like digging down in that, he was anxious. He didn't want her to leave. He was scared.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Her.
I was like, no, what is he scared for that car to do?
Exactly, because every time mom would get in the car, she would leave, right?
Yeah.
How do we prevent her from doing that? We slash the tires. So again, instead of dealing with what's going on, which again, this is a kid, and like they need support doing that, it doesn't really matter what the behavior is. It matters what's underneath that. What's the goal that you're trying to get to with that behavior?
Yeah.
And so it looks different for everybody.
But I think that, so like focusing on this particular song though, and focusing on what you just said, focus on the fact of like, what's the behavior that we're trying to get to, and like the support that you get, because Meg was talking about like the people dismiss her. So whether it's because you're a celebrity, whether or not it's because you're a Black female,
which we'll get to that. We will go to that, but keep going.
But the lack of support, but also the hard part of that, like us even unpacking a fraction of that, you can see how layered this is, how confusing it can be, and why there are so many people that when you ask them about their anxiousness, either they say they don't have it or they say, I don't know, which is like, even for her when she was like, I don't even know what I need. It's the truth.
Right.
Like if you ask me, how can I help? How can I support? What's going on with you? I don't know. All I know is that I get overwhelmed, and the best thing that I know how to do is to walk away.
Right.
Every time you want to talk, I'm like, nope, not going there, and I'm going to move. Like,
well, that's what she's saying. She's disengaging, right?
Yeah.
Which looks rude. It looks like, she doesn't want to interact. But for her, like, again, in theory, whoever is saying something like this, right, it's a way for them to manage what's going on inside of them.
Yes. And that is the thing, too, is that we all figure out ways to manage. Now, whether that is healthy ways to manage, whether that is unhealthy ways to manage, we just all figure out ways to manage.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong way to do that. It's just how your system does that, and like you being okay with whichever way you choose to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like as long as you're not hurting someone, hurting yourself, that whole thing. If it's good with you, if it's not upsetting to you, fine.
Yeah.
Find your way through it.
Which is also my plug that I always tell people, that your behaviors in the way that you manage, whether or not they're publicly or socially acceptable, at least acknowledge the fact that this is a behavior that you adapted that worked for you in the moment. So whether or not it was running, whether or not it was tearing up, whether it was fighting, whatever it was, it kind of sort of helped you in that moment, or we thought it helped you in that moment. So it's not like always that you're a bad person. You just developed something that helped you out in the moment.
This is like bringing up stuff for me, because I'm thinking about like when I was in college. Shout out to my old roommate here. She would make fun of me because I would see, it's a whole thing. It was a public person in a small city, and I would see people in Walmart that I did not want to talk to because I was also a counseling student. So I didn't want to run into a client. It's a whole bunch. So when I would see people in Walmart, I'd be ducking and dodging stuff. And she would just be walking, and we going somewhere, and all of a sudden I'd disappear. Because I'd be like, I don't want to interact with these people.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that because it was too much. My anxiety was going to be too high, and it was going to be awkward. It was like all the things.
Yeah.
And that was my way of just like ghost, disappeared. I love a good Irish goodbye. Okay, I'm here 1 minute, next minute I'm gone. Where'd she go? Don't matter. I'm out.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. Where somebody's going to see that and perceive it as rude or
It
whatever.
is rude.
Yeah. or she's trying to like avoid people, but
And I was,
yes,
but I was
I
also
am.
trying to manage that feeling
Yeah.
of like, I don't like the feeling that's happening right now. I don't want to even interact with it, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And avoidance is a big part of anxiety. I don't think you really can be anxious without having some kind of avoidant parts, because we don't like feeling that
I
way.
tell people that all the time. The people don't realize that their avoidance, that their procrastination, all of
anxiety.
those, all those things are anxiety based. Like you're avoiding something for a reason, and we need to kind of sort of get to the point of like what we're avoiding and why.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. So what you also kind of touched on before is that Meg is talking about stuff from the lens of being a celebrity. And so that is definitely showing up in the song. But it's really hard for me to piece out the difference between a celebrity's experience and a black woman's experience for her. Like how much of it is because she's a celebrity and how much of it is because she's a black woman. And I can't always tell because
some of it is
I relate. Like I can
100%.
see it in black women. Of just people don't
100%.
see us. They don't think that our pain is real. They don't listen to us when we're asking for help. They just assume that we're strong and we got it because we always have.
Yeah.
And
so like you said, it becomes dismissive. Like I can call 911, I can go ask for help, but if I do it, someone's gonna be like, "Oh, well, ain't nothing wrong." Like, on my soapbox about this whole that we can handle more pain than other people. If a black woman says that she's at a 4, like at a 6, it's really a 4. Stop. Like sorry.
well, everything goes back to racism
And slavery.
Oh, slavery. What did I say? Racism. Same thing. Slavery is racist. Racism is baby. Okay.
So yeah, there's a definite big part of that, of the whole systemic issue of her having a problem that she feels like that there's not even safety for. We see that. I think that would be a whole nother can of worms about how we as Black people and as Black women, we deal with this stigma and like this thing. But there is a level of, we talk about the extra level of being Black and the extra level of being a Black woman, that there's a lack of safety in life sometimes. There is that feeling that goes, I don't know about you, but that feeling that goes through my body that if something happened to me, would they look for me? If something happened to me, would anybody like come out here and like, rally with my family to find me? Like there's a certain level of like, that we're not cared about like that. And it increases anxiety because it's like, who am I gonna call?
Absolutely. That's the first thing. Second thing, like we also have to talk about it. I forget her name right now, but the girl who, we thought was kidnapped. She wasn't kidnapped.
Carlee.
The whole thing. Carlee. Thank you. Carlee Russell. So in that whole situation and how that connects to this is that if somebody is in a state where they want to disappear, right? They want to leave and they're banking on the fact that our society does not look for Black women when they're missing. It already shows you there's a ton of problems there.
100%.
Right? Like there is a real truth to this issue that we're talking about.
Yeah. Which please do not let that or anything else make you stop taking listening to Black women, because it's still an issue. Yeah, it's still an issue that we need to be sought after the same way that other people are sought after.
Absolutely. And like we said, it's the behavior, but there's something underneath that. Like she's going through something that we all can relate to underneath that as Black women. Yeah. The fact that there is a sense in us that if we leave, if we ask for help, because again, leaving and doing something, making something up was more in grasp for her than asking for help.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if all of that is underneath and something that's easier is just like, I can just disappear and nobody would know or care. That's a problem. Yeah. So like, I don't know, we can be mad at her all day, but I think we really need to be mad at the way the system is.
Yeah, situation aside and focusing on the system that says a lot for us, for people. Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe it was unique to her, but that's not the way the story usually goes.
Oh, right? 100%.
Yeah, how many missing Black women do we have at the moment, at any given time?
Yeah. Like,
right. So like, we skirt, we on a tangent, but look, it all relates.
Yes.
It all relates.
That's some of the things that I do believe that is an underlying factor of anxiety. And I can honestly say, I got to say for me that is an underlying factor of a lot of my anxiety, because there are certain moments where things happen and that I hate when someone's like, well, like, I don't want to argue with the person in the restaurant or the person at the store, because the underlying factor is that if I get arrested or if I get in trouble, my anxiety is like, Charmaine, you're going to jail. Ain't nobody gonna believe you. Like, they can hurt you and no one's gonna care. My anxiety is like no, I'm not doing all that. So yes, I know that it's something as small as like arguing over a parking spot, but I'm like, you can have it, because at the end of the day, my anxiety tells me I ain't gonna make it home, and I don't want to deal with that.
Which is the problem, like we talked about before. The way that the DSM diagnoses anxiety is saying something that is excessive. But who's to say what's excessive?
And
right?
who's to say that? Because there was also one that said like an unknown threat, which I think that in some cases, yeah, we don't know.
Well, uncontrollable.
But there's a possibility. We have, y'all, vicarious trauma is a serious thing. Well, I have had trauma from other people's experiences. I have seen enough people get arrested or abused in the court system that I don't want to fool with it like that.
Even
so
before that, I've heard enough from my parents, my grandparents, my aunties, my uncles. I've seen it. I've heard enough of their stories to know that this is true.
Yeah.
I've seen it on the news to know that it is true.
Which is why I know this is also side note, but I understood Meg when she said that she initially lied when she made when she had the interaction with the police when the whole shooting happened. I got it, because I'm the exact same way. I'll call my homeboys, I'll call my brother before I call the cops on a black man, because I don't want what's going to happen in that way, because I don't know what's going to happen to you.
The potential is too great.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that risk. But again, that's also anxiety and trauma, right? Showing up being like, this is an outcome I don't want. Let me try to control for it with this behavior, which I get. I totally get. But to me, that's also sad too. I'd rather you get beat up by Pookie and before I send you to jail. Because like, no. But that's just the way that we wire. Yeah. But I would say, like, connecting it back to Meg, she also says she wants to call 911 sometimes, and she doesn't, because she doesn't think that people will believe her or even like really care. But I feel like that's the same vein, right? Yeah. You're not going to call 911 for a black man who is like done you wrong, and you're also not going to call 911 for yourself, because really those systems are not made to help us or people that look like us. That's part of it. And also, will those people believe me?
That also ties.
Are they going to care?
Yes, but that also ties into why we do this, why we do this, and also,
I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
let's do it.
But also why we do our profession, because we need people who get us and who understand. I have heard so many stories, horrific stories about people who go seek, and I'm not hating on anybody, because some of our people are amazing. I have one who is amazing, but sometimes we need people who get us, who look like us, who understand our perspective. Because like
they're not gonna get it.
I can't come to therapy and like I have anxiety about this, and you're like, okay, like I don't understand.
But that has legit happened to me before. I've been in people's office and being like, something's wrong. Like, I don't feel right, or like I feel anxious, and they've been like, you look like you're good. You look like you're fine. Literally, somebody's told me that, and they'd be like, have a good day. Let me know if you want a job.
Well, the cultural aspect of that, I was literally talking to someone yesterday who, like, not a client, but she was telling me about how she went to someone else for therapy and told the woman how she was feeling anxious every day at work because there was another person who had told her, it's on site when I see you. And she said, I'm not the one. And she was like, yeah, those words are threats. And the therapist was like, no. And she was like, no, she's plotting against me. But it's like, we need spaces. Because like, if that was me, I was like, oh, girl.
She said, what do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what this is what we're
going to do. And it's been some days, too. Right. Like, girl, I would have been nervous,
have you
too.
Seen her since she said that to you? Okay, so then we need to figure it out.
Is your car okay? Is your house out? Because,
right. Did you check your tires before you started going anywhere? Did you check your gas tank before you went anywhere? But again, you need somebody who speaks the same language as you. We'll say that. Look, if you're in an area where like you're not near therapists who look like you, I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But if you can help it, or if part of your issue is connected to what you look like, what your skin color is, and living in a world that doesn't look like you, it helps to connect with somebody else who like gets it and literally speaks your language. Black people speak a different language.
We do.
So you need somebody who speaks your language. So you don't have to explain the fact that you can go get your hair done, Or the fact of, like, somebody who want to ask you, well, why didn't you call the police? Because I already know why you probably didn't call the police.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Understandable.
You feel me?
Yeah. So, and
Okay.
I think that also goes into deeper than therapy. Well, not deeper than therapy, but aside from therapy, in this song, she says, and she also said in the interview, how the song was like a letter to her mother. Meg has said multiple times about losing her mother, how close her and her mother was, and how her mother was like her person, and how that was hard for her. Like becoming elevated into this space. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of this stuff may have been things that she was dealing with before. Like, you know, she had like grief before she became a celebrity, all those things. But then to elevate that and into like the celebrity world, and then to not have that person there.
Exactly. Which, like we talked in a video before, I want to say it was with Funeral with the People.
Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come, thank you. But like whatever happens with grief, it intensifies everything that's around you.
Yeah.
And so I think that already happened for Meg, but also then after she went through like some really terrible stuff, and to not have these structures, because again, people in our life, like consistent people, which can be parents, can be friends, could be a therapist, these structures help us, especially when we get weak, when, you know, like we cannot stand on our own. They help like literally fortify us, and not having that in place when you have something as traumatic as that, it changes you, and it changes the way that you digest the trauma too.
And I'm pretty sure that's why I said too, like even like not even like just that situation. I'm pretty sure that she was going through a lot of things. I, in my own personal opinion, I mean, of course, I don't know, you know, yet or whatever. But
That's not our homegirl yet. It's only our homegirl in our head.
But I don't know, like, how it was for her to elevate into a celebrity status. But I would, in my mind, think that that would be hard too. You have a whole lot of fake friends, people who want you for this reason and who are around you for this
Or
reason.
that also played out in that situation too.
Or saying
right?
like, you know, that I'm here to help you, but I'm really here for my own, like, for my own benefit. And knowing that your mom was the only person that I really like, you know, could have been that person for me. So now I'm dealing with all of this by myself. There's a grief in that. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I don't have anyone. But see, let me tell you something about Black women. If you look around and you saw the Black women who really, like, it's a Black women who see Meg. It's Black women who were standing for Meg, because we understand like a portion of that, like that existence, right? Of like nobody believing us, we're the only ones, all of that. We totally get that. Or even having to do things on your own when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or wanting to run and hide.
And
Or
not
like,
having that luxury.
Yeah. Or like, you know, wanting to take time away and just like cook loose for a little while.
Disappear.
Yeah. Understandably, completely. There's a lot of hurt in that. There's a lot of trauma responses in that. A lot.
Yeah. So,
But I do also love too that she acknowledged, and so like kind of like what we said earlier, that all of us deal with an aspect or a level of anxiety in different ways, and it shows up in different ways. Like the whole idea of, please don't label somebody for their anxiety, that, oh yeah, anxiety only looks like this type of person or this type of person. Like she said, that she could be a baddie and have anxiety. I could be fine today and still struggling with a level of anxiety. Like don't like confuse the two. That I gotta like look a certain way or like show up a certain way in order to have anxiety. Like that ain't how it has. Like it has no face like that.
Exactly. And if we've learned nothing, okay, nothing from just being on this earth and like learning about people and even like celebrities, nothing is the way that it looks on the outside. In fact, a lot of things are curated to look a certain way on the outside to hide the fact that they look differently on the inside.
100%.
And so
social media being one.
Well, yes. But like also people curate their lives to look like that. Like I heard Meg, like she was kind of talking about this album and how she writes songs. And she says, usually when I write a song, like if I'm feeling bad, I'll write a song like Body. If I'm feeling bad, I'll write a song like one of her other songs, because she says she writes about the ways that she wants to feel, which means like she looks this way on the outside, right? Meg bad. She is. But also she doesn't always feel like that person.
Yeah.
She's like trying to get to that person through her music.
Which I actually love.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes, I mean, I love songs like this, but I think that it is like a perception of of when I feel like I'm down, I want to kind of sort of do a perception of how I want to feel right now. So
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, but I think it also reflects how we also move around the world of just like, I'm anxious, so how do I curate a life that looks like I'm not?
yeah,
Right? Like, that's some people's behaviors sometimes. And like, also get it. And there's a reason why black women do not appear to be anxious on the outside.
yeah. I mean, for one, because I feel like that we don't have the space and vulnerability to be able to. But
Absolutely.
that's just, me.
That's part of it. I think also people don't see us. They don't look hard enough. They don't take the time to see what's really happening. And second of all, like, it's vulnerable. If I show up in a space where I'm anxious, I present in a way that's anxious, whether that's work, whether that's like at my kid's school, like in all of these public places, then what happens?
Yeah.
Do I get taken advantage of?
100%.
Right?
So
People aren't
speaking
right to
of,
me.
let's
What?
go ahead and plug our first or second video, Poetic Justice. Like,
I sure was going to bring that up. Tell us.
Yes, because that was Janet Jackson. Like, I'm like she had definitely went through a lot of trauma with like the suicide of her mother and the like. Okay, so anxiety is also a symptom of trauma. So the suicide of her mother, the death of her grandmother. She lived in LA with all kind of other stuff.
Compton.
Her boyfriend got shot in front of her. Like, there was a lot of layers. So where was she anxious? 100% she was anxious. But how it showed up, she was the angry black bee.
Yeah, she was mean sometimes.
Yes.
She had an attitude.
It was her protective. This
Absolutely.
is how I learned to protect myself and protect my anxiety. I feel uncomfortable. This makes me feel anxiety. Like, we saw the one scene where she calmed down and she was like, nope, put it back up. Your nails dirty. I gotta find some kind of way to put it back up.
Exactly.
So yeah, plug that video too if you guys have not watched it. But how this looks.
That's why it looks different for us.
Yeah.
That's why it's going to look different for black women, because we have to exist in the world in a different way. We don't have as much ability, or the world does not give us as much access to softness, soft life, vulnerability. And so like, you got to have your people around you. You have to like try to cultivate those people around you, and or even like be that for yourself, right? Because life's not always black and white. We don't always have the people, or the people are gone, or you're in an in-between spot and it's hard to find, your people. If nothing else, you have to be that for yourself.
Yeah. Which also requires you to learn how to be that for yourself.
Yeah.
Which is the hard part, because most times we are trying to be there for ourselves. Just as some of those behaviors that we do are not always the most positive behaviors.
Yeah. And it helps when you have someone who like knows how to do it and teaches you how to do it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have a caregiver who taught you how to do it, it's really hard for you to do yourself. So I hate to like, we're therapists. We always talk about therapy. Like, I hate it, but like also at the same time, I mean, I don't, but I'm just saying, like, it feels like, okay, we're a little bit biased, which we are, but I don't understand how black women do this without a therapist, because it's just so hard and there's not a lot of spaces for us to show up and be fully us.
I do, because I think that like, even for me as a therapist, there are so many things about me that I have unpacked in therapy, that I'm still unpacking in therapy, that I'm like, oh wait, I do that. Oh wait, why did I start doing that? Where did this come from? Like, there's so many layers to us understanding us and realizing that, oh yeah, I do that because this helped me to not feel this.
Yeah. And again, that is a portion of therapy. Another portion can also be like, I don't like the way that I have to hold all of this, right? Nothing may even need to change in our lives, right? But if just like, this is hard to hold, I need something to do with this energy while I'm holding these hard things.
Yeah.
That's a great reason to go to therapy.
Put your bag down in therapy. We discussed it. And
we go through the bag
to pick it right back up and carry it right back out. But you can also bring it back again next week.
Exactly.
Put it down again. Rest, relax, pull the armor off, and let's go through it.
Yeah. Kick the bag over, because that's
sometimes
me.
It's that too. Stop on the bag and then pick it back up. Like, okay,
exactly. That's sure where we are. So like,
we appreciate it, Meg, for this song.
Yeah,
I definitely did.
Agree. I think a lot of people related.
Yeah, and I hope that people related. I hope that people resonated. I hope that it made sense to some people. Yeah.
And like, as usual, we wish Meg the best, like literally from
100%.
the bottom of our heart, Meg, if you're watching this, because, you watch all our stuff. So, like, literally, like, sending you the best energy because, like,
100%.
as Black women and the people who relate to Meg, we're also talking to you. Like, we see you. We feel you. If nobody gets you, we get you.
And we love
like,
you.
Absolutely. And we love you. And you got this. You can do this, babes. You can. So you can be a baddie and have anxiety at the same time. And also you can have a baddie with anxiety who also has a therapist, okay?
Yeah. 100%.
You deserve it.
Yeah. And so I guess like two kind of questions that need answers. Like just like us counsel, like diving in, we want like y'all's perspectives too on if you watch the video.
Mm-hmm.
The image.
The little image that goes with the video. It's like her falling into water and like drowning. And it plays in a loop because that's all the image is. It's not anything more than that. And that's really hard to watch, I would say. That's really hard. But I think it embodies how she feels.
I don't think I had paid attention until you showed it to me. And I was like, this is a little difficult to watch. Mm-hmm. There was something emotionally that resonated in me of like, I get it.
Yeah,
like,
it makes sense.
Like there's no words, but like just the visual of like the drowning person. I'm like, oh, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it.
Yeah, and even like her being pushed over and over again. Like I know that it's on a loop because of the way that it is, but like being pushed over and over again, I'd be like, I just feel I get that. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the title of the album, which I kind of had a question about. She like makes up a whole new word because like I guess the way that she is digesting, which again I think the music for her is digesting the trauma, right? It's like digesting it and putting it out in a different way. She said traumazine, which for her is kind of like, I don't know, looking everything that's happened to her since the trauma, because of the trauma, and also looking back at that and like seeing herself. But I'm going to add my little sprinkle to that. My sprinkle to that is the way that she wrote the word traumazine kind of makes it seem like it's a magazine. Like somebody is looking through her trauma for entertainment. That's the way that I took it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think she knows what she's doing with her words, but it kind of seems like people are looking at my trauma as entertainment, right? This is interesting to people versus like, this is my actual life. Mm-hmm. I'm actually living it. And so I also get that too.
I don't know. I had not thought about that.
I mean, again, I just made that up. So
no, but I like that.
Who knows that that's true?
It's a perspective. I think that's how art is. You can interpret it how you want to interpret it. Mm-hmm. So
Meg, girl, tell us what you had meant, okay? Tell us if we're wrong. But we really want to know what y'all think. Like, does that resonate with you? Does any of this resonate with you? And you're like, your lived experience, because we're assuming that it does, because I really believe it does.
Yeah. I assume it does. But, I mean, maybe. And not only, like, just like another little tidbit, like, that she also mentioned, too, the people that she resonated with. Brittany, Whitney, Marilyn. Like, we acknowledge other women that one of them being a Black woman who, y'all know how much we love Whitney, but also knowing how much Whitney went through publicly and how much trauma and how much grief and how much things that she struggled with publicly.
Yeah.
And what that potentially looked like. So
that's where the traumazine comes in for me. Like all of those women were very public and had really public lives and had a lot of public trauma.
Yeah.
And everybody just really watched. And for a lot of people never really understood how, like, never saw them as human, really.
Yeah.
Right. It was just like, oh, celebrity going through a hard thing.
And the trauma became entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, whew. Y'all, it got deep today.
Yeah.
It got real, real deep. So take care of yourselves, please. If you listen to this, definitely engage in the self-care.
Yeah.
Please.
As always, like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend.
A friend of a friend.
Yeah, a friend of a friend.
Your boo thing.
Family. Put it
your
in the
mama,
group
your
chat.
cousin, them.
Me and you, your mama and the cousin too.
All of that.
Okay.
In the meantime, stay mentally dope, y'all.
Stay mentally dope.